this is not so straightforward. This is not so easy. Like, yes, you were spending more money than all the other NATO countries, but there was a reason for that. Like your privileged position in all the world affairs.
The military,
bases that you have everywhere. You have bases on Greenland right now, a lot of them. Hello guys.
Hello everyone.
I am Waldemar.
And I'm Weronika.
And today we are watching a video that Weronika has found out for us.
Yes,
and it's called How America Became a Superpower.
Indeed, I think it's by Vox. And the video just sounds quite intriguing. It's very popular. I think it has a...
yeah, we know this channel. We have seen the rise of Xi Jinping explained.
Yeah, I've seen that one. It was a very solid video.
A very popular channel, like a very professional one.
Mm-hmm. And this video, I think, is even more popular. I saw it was quite popular for reactions as well. So I think it will have some interesting information in it.
Yeah, but it's older, much older.
Yeah.
The one of Xi Jinping was from 1 year ago, and this one is from 8 years ago. So
I mean,
it has a right to be more popular. Yeah. 50 million views. So
I know a little bit about the beginning of America, and we also know a little bit about American history, so I don't think everything that will be said will be a surprise. But it will be nice to find out in a concise manner, which is only 8 minutes, about how it became a superpower.
I wonder if it's going to be like condensed knowledge, or is it going to be like one narrative? Because for me, this is too big of a subject to be explained in like, oh, we did this, and that's how we became a superpower. I think there is more to that on different aspects, like the economic one, of course, that's the big one, but also the military one. Cultural one, the influential. That how Hollywood became so influential on the whole world. But so I think there is lots of things to look into. I wonder if they will mention all of them.
Most of the photos that I see are related to the military, so we will see if there's anything else mentioned.
Maybe it's strictly in a military context.
Maybe because it's superpower. Yeah, it could be about. Well, we'll find out soon enough.
Because how US became a superpower, I mostly understand. Like, it was a gradual process, of course. It started with the World War I, and then it was the big test for the America, and became a source for experience. And then they built on that experience, and also being so powerful economically, helped growing such a good advanced army. Yeah, but we will see what they mean in this video. Yep. Let's go.
The modern United States is the most powerful country in human history, with over 800 military bases and 37%.
So it's
about military
spending. The US has become the leader of a vast, interconnected global system that has helped usher in an era of unprecedented prosperity and low levels of conflict. To understand America's position in the world, and why it's so pivotal for world politics as we know it, you have to go back to the country's founding, back to when America wasn't a global power in any sense of the word. During the first 70 years of its existence, the United States expanded in both territory and influence in North America, eventually reaching the Pacific Ocean, in a wave of expansionism that resulted in the wholesale slaughter of the indigenous people who populated the continent. But early Americans were deeply divided as to whether the country should expand beyond the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans. This became a major debate after the Civil War, when some leaders, like post-war Secretary of State Seward, argued that America should push to become a global power. Seward succeeded in pushing a plan to purchase Alaska from Russia, but his attempts to buy Greenland and Iceland, as well as annex territory in the Caribbean, were all blocked by Congress. That's because some Americans, including many on Capitol Hill, had a strong anti-imperialist bent. These people worried about America getting more involved in global politics, as well as having to integrate populations from quote-unquote inferior races.
Yeah, it makes sense, when they were fighting against Britain and they see what kind of country Britain was, and, they were their enemy.
Yeah,
they just get independence from them, so... Yeah. It would be weird to go into the same direction.
Yeah, they just got independence from the biggest empire in the world. And I think we watched in another video when it was mentioned, it was the first country that was created with the Constitution in mind, with all these values about liberty and freedom. And your leaders want to push colonialism again? I am not surprised that so many people.
Yeah, but on the other hand, I also don't know how Americans were. On one hand, yeah, colonialism is bad, but slavery, on the other hand, is depends. But that's true, for the Americans, it's even when at the time of the Second World War, it was also like a big difference between those two allies, with the Roosevelt and Churchill. Roosevelt believed in the country's right to decide for themselves, and for Britain it was difficult to accept when they were like an empire with so many countries under the control of the crown.
And this opposition implied major checks on the imperialists from quote-unquote inferior races. And this opposition implied major checks on the imperialist urge to expand. But something was happening in the late 1800s that would change the debate about American expansionism. The Industrial Revolution produced explosive economic growth, and the bigger US economy required a more centralized state and bureaucracy to manage the growing economy. Power became concentrated in the federal government, making it easier for expansionist presidents, like William McKinley, to unilaterally push American influence abroad. The key turning point came in 1898, when President McKinley dragged the country into war with Spain over Cuba, despite some intense domestic opposition. The rising United States easily defeated the moribund Spanish Empire, acquiring Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Philippines in the process. Over the next 2 years, the US would annex the Kingdom of Hawaii, Wake Island, and American Samoa. A few years later, the US took control of the Panama Canal Zone and sent troops to occupy the Dominican Republic. It also purchased the American Virgin Islands. This period of rapid acquisition of far-flung territories put the US on the map as a truly global power. During this time, America also began using its influence to protect its growing commercial and military interests abroad, installing pro-American regimes in places like Nicaragua, and playing a major role in international diplomacy regarding the Western presence in China. World War I showed just how much America's influence had grown. Not only was American intervention a decisive factor in the war's end, but President Wilson attended the Paris Peace Conference, which ended the war, and attempted to set the terms of the peace. He spearheaded America's most ambitious foreign policy initiative yet, an international organization called the League of Nations, designed to promote peace and cooperation globally. The League, a wholesale effort to remake global politics, showed just how ambitious American foreign policy had become. Yet isolationism was still a major force in the United States. Congress blocked the United States from joining the League of Nations, dooming Wilson's project. During the Great Depression and the rise of Hitler, the US was much more focused on its own region than on European affairs. Ultimately, America's ever-growing entanglements abroad made it impossible for it to stay out of global affairs entirely. In East Asia, the growing
I'm wondering, for now, how is it about America, how America became a superpower? Like, kind of, but he's just mentioning like historical facts.
Yeah, but how
not,
it grew.
not the reason behind them. Like America acquired those islands. America was able to.
Yeah, I would be looking more for like causation in those events that he's mentioning, not just like, okay, America was doing this and this and this because we kind of know it, but like, for example, America went through the period of Great Depression, which caused people to want this and this, so then more military spending, or like which caused a dip in the market in those areas, but not that one, so later they could be strong, you know what I mean? Like
there's something behind the scenes, like when he mentioned this politician who was for acquiring Greenland and like something like that. I was expecting more, but yeah, it's only
maybe we just need the context, right? Let's be patient.
Let's see more.
The Japanese Empire posed a direct threat to American possessions and troops, bringing the United States and Japan into conflict. This culminated in the Pearl Harbor attack, bringing the United States into World War II. World War II would transform America's global presence forever. The United States was the only major power to avoid economic ruin during the war, and it was the sole country equipped with atomic weapons. As such, it was in a unique position to set the terms of the peace, and, with the aim of preventing another war in mind, it took advantage. The most famous example of this is the creation of the United Nations. The UN Charter set up a system of international law prohibiting wars of conquest, like the ones waged by the Nazis and the Japanese. It also served as a forum in which the international community could weigh in on disputes and help resolve them. This way, the Americans hoped, great powers could resolve their differences through compromise and law rather than war. But while the UN is the most famous of the post-war institutions, it isn't the only one. 730 delegates from all 44 allied nations came together in a small vacation haven in New Hampshire. Their goal? To establish a global financial system that would prevent another Great Depression and World War. The resulting agreement, called the Bretton Woods Agreement, ultimately became the backbone of the global financial system, resulting in the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund. By creating these institutions, the United States committed itself to being deeply involved in the world's problems.
Okay, that's
The issue,
more-
though, is that the world's second largest power, the Soviet Union, saw things differently. World War II had made allies out of the democratic West and communist East in the fight against Hitler, but that couldn't last. The United States saw Soviet expansion in Eastern Europe and elsewhere as a direct threat to its vision of a free trading, democratic world.
To a substantial degree, in one form or another, socialism has spread the shadow of human regimentation over most of the nations of the earth, and the shadow is encroaching upon our own liberty.
Fearful of Soviet intentions towards Western Europe,
extremely precise. Like it's kind of here. Like, I feel like the shadow metaphor could have been carried without the actual prop. I'm not sure how necessary that was.
But it was like a nice picture, he was spinning the globe and then suddenly you see United States. It's like
He didn't have AI to make the shadow actually encroach in the way he was trying to describe it, I guess. But so far, I'm still waiting for those causal links.
yeah, and also like it's all the knowledge we know. Like you remember this video of Xi Jinping,
Oh yeah.
like how it went into details so much. How many things you learned that you had no idea about.
Yeah, this one, everything I knew so far.
And this one it's focusing, like what I mean is it's focusing too much on a big picture.
Yeah.
Like on the things that we all know about and not about what was happening on the backstage of this. Like we know about the creation of United Nations, we know about the creation of NATO, we know about the Cold War, we know how pivotal United States was to both world wars.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like
I was kind of hoping they would show some of the like strategy, what decisions they made that were really good, what investments they made at very good times, military-wise even. Yeah.
Why they were
technology.
not touched by the economic crisis so much? Why their economy was so good at those periods?
Well, there's 3 more minutes, so maybe we'll find that out.
I don't think so. Let's
the
go.
US and other European nations created the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, a military alliance meant to stop Russia from invading other countries in Europe.
That went well. I mean, technically,
Globally, the
Ukraine
US
is not
committed to a
nice.
strategy
NATO.
called containment, so called because it was aimed at containing the spread of communism everywhere on the globe. This new global struggle meant that the US had to exert influence everywhere, all the time. Instead of disbanding the massive military machine created for World War II, the wheels mostly kept turning. This had 2 main results. First, the US was pulled into unlikely alliances with countries like Saudi Arabia, Israel, and South Korea, seeing each of them as bulwarks against communist influence in their region. Secondly, the US began intervening, often secretly, in dozens of countries to contain Soviet influence. Sometimes this meant propping up sympathetic dictators, like in Iran. Other times, it meant supplying rebels with arms and money, like in Afghanistan in 1979 and Nicaragua in 1985. Over the course of the Cold War, the US intervened in hundreds of disputes around the globe, ending up with a complicated set of alliances, tensions, and relationships in basically every corner of the Earth. After the Berlin Wall fell, the US could have withdrawn from the system, severing ties with its allies and drawing down the size of its military. And while the US did decrease military spending, much of the military infrastructure and alliances from the Cold War remained.
Yeah.
Presidents George
Yes.
H.W. Bush and Bill Clinton decided that it was in both America and the world's interests for the United States, now the sole superpower on Earth, to continue actively managing global affairs.
We should be and we must be peacemakers.
NATO, created solely as a tool for countering the Soviet Union, stayed together and even expanded, a way of keeping European nations united in the absence of the Soviet threat.
But this is so mind-boggling for me. I would try to keep it short, but it's so infuriating. Like,
Wait, make sure it's speaking to the mic. It's important what you're going to say, I think.
like America had such a great situation, and you don't understand it. Like, not all of you, of course, but some of you just don't understand it. and you really need to learn more about it. Like he said, America was the sole superpower, but everyone, like in Europe, or most, not everywhere, of course, not in the Middle East, but the whole world accepted like America's role. We were like, okay, we are fine with that, This is the main player on the world. They can have the most money, they can have most influence. Yep. We just like having peace, and they are good at providing peace for us. We are able to, thanks to that, we can agree to using dollars mostly as a currency for international trade, which made American economy so powerful, which allowed you to have those this national debt, because the national debt was shared across all world basically, because we were all using dollars. Mm-hmm. So you had this comfort situation, and suddenly, because some orange guy told you that, oh, you know what, we are spending too much money on that, they are not spending so much money on that, so we should withdraw from NATO, we should withdraw from everything. Like, this is not so straightforward, this is not so easy. Like, yes, you were spending more money than all the other NATO countries, but there was a reason for that. Like, your privileged position in all the world affairs.
The military,
bases that you have everywhere. You have bases on Greenland right now, a lot of them.
Yeah, missiles can be launched from every place on Earth, basically, within seconds, because of the...
Yeah, but also, first of all, you have American soldiers on foreign soil, and we have no problems. We have come here, we want to stay here, because we had trust. We trusted you for so many years, and the trust was earned.
Yeah, and Europe...
And now it's like everything went to the garbage.
And it's not just military either. We had trust in European the economics from the US as well, like products, American products, the marketing
American market.
Yeah, and marketing campaigns in Europe, they were focused on the American products. I was seeing lately, sometimes it's spread in media like, these are the American brands. If you don't want to support what's happening right now in America, then you can use these European alternatives. I don't know these European alternatives because they are not being pushed to Europeans. We all wanted and want to use the products that are from America. We want to go to McDonald's. We want to drink Coca-Cola. We want to, you know what I mean? Like we want these products. We want the innovations that came from America. We want to pay American money so that they keep bringing that.
Yeah, it's just to keep it short. Like, you really had a great position in the world, and the one guy came and he told you that all the problems are because we are spending so much money on other countries while we are getting nothing in return, and now we have to withdraw, and if we will withdraw from everything, then we will be rich again and great again.
Yeah,
and all that happens is that you are getting poorer and poorer, and the stock market is going down and down.
Yeah, and just one last thing, it's not that simple, and the scale is not really even comparable, but it's interesting to see it so soon after Brexit, because the reasons for Brexit were very similar. Like, we are the biggest contributor, we're not getting enough back, we're going to withdraw. And what is happening now?
Yeah.
How can we not notice that this maybe was not the best move?
Yeah, but they noticed. But the British noticed, and now they would like to come back.
Yeah, so, seeing that, I know it's not comparable, the scales and everything, but sometimes maybe there's a reason why you're contributing. It's not
so black and white, you know. It's not only about one spreadsheet of money, because there are lots of spreadsheets.
Yeah, there are lots of spreadsheets, exactly. Let's go.
Washington's support for countries like Israel and Japan stayed intact, ostensibly as a means of preventing war in their respective regions. The global system of alliances and institutions created to keep the peace during the Cold War became permanent, as did the American military and political commitments necessary to keep them running. This system remains in operation today, and no leading American politician since the Cold War has seriously called for dismantling it. Except, perhaps, for Donald Trump. Trump has said contradictory things about these commitments, but he's consistently argued that American allies are not paying the US enough for its protection, and questioned the value of free trade. That calls NATO and even the World Trade Organization into question.
At some point, we have to say, you know what? We're better off if Japan protects itself against this maniac in North Korea. We're better off, frankly, if South Korea is going to start to protect itself.
Saudi Arabia, nuclear weapons?
Saudi Arabia, absolutely.
This is a sharp divergence from the consensus that has dominated U.S. foreign policy since 1945, and something closer to the isolationism that came before it. So will President Trump act on some of candidate Trump's ideas and reverse decades worth of institution building and alliances?
That is such an old video.
We'll find out soon enough.
Well, to the person who was making this video, no, we will not find out soon enough. But then there is going to be another, and then maybe we'll find out at some point. But yeah.
I think let's keep it short because we
Yeah.
already said a lot before
Exactly.
the
I'm
end.
not so just about the video. I'm not so sure about this video because I think we just said some things about your current politics. So now to sweeten it up, I think US is really super powerful, and I don't think this video is really giving it justice and like explaining really the fault that went behind it and the collective effort of all the really great leaders that were there. It just kind of said, "Oh, this happened," and then we have a lot of bases.
Yeah, and,
That's it.
and also even mentioning Trump in this video, it was weird because its video is called "How America Became a Superpower," how became superpower,
Yeah.
and now suddenly you are focusing the end of the video on the current president because at the time he was a current president or
I
he
think
was
so. I think he was.
before the election.
I think he was the president at the time.
Yeah, 8 years ago, he was a president. Yeah, so either you are focusing on how it became or you are focusing on how it is now. So,
Yeah. Well, share your thoughts with us. I'm sure you'll have some.
Don't hate us so much. Don't hate. Yeah.
Yeah, let's not hate each other. Let's just explain our points of view because then we can grow. Yeah. Thank you very much for watching. Subscribe, leave us a like, and we'll see you in the next video.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.